Okay, across the South Australian border. Cameron Corner's just around here. Good news, I'm here. Bad news, my car has a weird knocking sound coming from around the front of the engine. I'm hoping it's just the water pump, but it changes the more I accelerate. The corrugations are pretty bad in some sections there, so I really got a good shakedown. Made it here, so I can pull up and have a check underneath and maybe take the fan belt off and see if it is a water pump or not. So I've pulled up just to see if I can diagnose what the issue is. I've taken my fan belt off. I'm going to start the engine and listen to see if the noise is there. If it's not, then I know it's probably the water pump or maybe the alternator. So let's get it started and see what I can hear. So the noise is still there. So it's not the alternator or water pump. It might be the, what's it called? The power steering pump. So I'll loosen that one off now and see if that makes any difference. I'll put this other one back on tight first up. So it's not any of those ancillaries. Has to be something probably to do with the engine, but I'm not sure what. I've never heard this sound before. This is something to do with the timing belt or something's moved a little bit, making a different sound. So it just sounds like something's rubbing somewhere, it's hitting something somewhere. I'm not sure what else it could be. I'll have a bit of a think. Otherwise, I might just head back to Tibooburra and get it checked out and just abandon the rest of the trip. I don't want to head back in through a rough track and get stuck out somewhere isolated. I'll stick to the main road back. Just give me a bit longer and I'll take a look and see what I can figure out. The last thing I can think of is perhaps one of the tappet caps is knocked off and the rockers are hitting really hard. So I've loosened off the bolts and just got to pull the rocker cover off and have a really quick peek. It's a bit of dust around, so I don't want to leave it open too long. I'll see if all the tappet caps are in place and if there's nothing that looks odd inside. Maybe something's cracked or broken, I don't know. I didn't see anything broken or missing. Everything appears to be intact, so it's still a mystery. I had another look under my car, a bit closer. I think I found the culprit. See this plate here? It's knocked out. I've got some screws sitting in there. I don't know what they are. Some kind of bolt. Right there. So something inside sheared, broken, and spat these bolts out into that plate and bent it. I did have that new fuel injection pump fitted only a couple of months ago, so maybe something's done with that. So let's pull that plate off, take a closer look and see what damage is inside. Here we are, the culprits. This is what's making the noise. You can just look at that wear. It's been rubbing and just rubbing through the bolt head. So this is work I had done a couple of months ago when I had the new fuel injection pump put on. So I'm guessing perhaps the mechanics either didn't tighten it up to torque, or maybe they didn't use any thread lock and it's worked itself loose, spat out into this cover plate, spat them out. So it wasn't anything I've done, it's just the mechanics I had do this work. So there's still one bolt there. It doesn't look like there's any major permanent damage. I think the bolts just rattled loose and got spat out. I'll take a closer look. Hopefully I have bolts the right size now so I can put new ones in to keep the fuel injection pump correctly tightened in time. So you can see where the bolts are meant to be, which will bolt up that fuel injection timing thing. So I have to look in the workshop manual, see what it is, see how it all fits together, and then get my spare parts, get out and see if I've got a couple of bolts I can put in there for the time being to keep it all together. Oh, just another issue. Seems to be a cursed year for bolts this trip, or this year for my travels. But again, I'm prepared. I got the kit. Let's get it fixed and back on the road. I've looked through my spare parts kit through the bolt section. I got 2 bolts the correct size, both too long, so I'll cut them down to the same size as this. And stick them back in with some thread lock on, tighten it all up, and that should be okay. So I've got a vice grip, G-clamp in my hacksaw. I'll just make up a bit of a vice grip here. Get the right size. And I use the G-clamp to help try and give me a bit more stability. So I've got the vice grip, G-clamp, and the bolt in place. A bit of a jerry-rigged vice. Try and get myself here nice and steady. The original bolt, measure out the size. That's about right. A useful tip I've since learnt when cutting bolts is to put a spare nut on the bolt and use it as a guide to keep the saw straight and protect the thread. That's one bolt complete. Looks pretty good. Just about perfect size. I always carry longer bolts and then I can cut them down to whatever size I need. Because you know, if you buy shorter bolts, you got to find that it's probably not long enough for whatever particular need repair you have. So that's one down. Let's get the second bolt on. I carry this setup just because it's a lot lighter than carrying an actual vise. A vise would be great, but it just means another piece of kit when something like this can do the job good enough. I'm not in any rush to be anywhere. When the job's finished, then I can keep on traveling. So I've got my brand new bolts all cut up to the correct size. Got some thread locker just to make extra sure. So put some of this on. Hold them in tight. Thread locker is available in low, medium and high strength formulas. Medium strength, typically blue in colour, is best for most applications where bolts can still be undone with hand tools. All the bolts are in tight. Do a test now. The magical sound has been solved. It's fixed. I'll put the cover plate back on to give it a bit of a bash out, and that's done. Another bush repair complete. Everything's back together. So that's another problem solved. Now my only concern is the amount of metal chafe, all the filings that would have been created as the bolts were hard up against the casing there spinning around. All that stuff would have fallen down into the timing case and could potentially get on the timing belt and might make it fail prematurely. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I'm sure most will probably fall down on the bottom. There might be a bit of oil in there it might stick to. So that's my only concern, but I think the rest of the strip will be fine. I can always have a mechanic check it at a later date. That's another thing done. Just one of those things again. Nothing I could have done about it. I had mechanics replace my fuel injection pump. For whatever reason, the bolts either weren't torqued to the correct torque or there wasn't any thread lock used. I don't know. I'll email them later on and see if they can explain potential cause. But again, I'm prepared. I got the gear, got the kit. I'm running out of spare bolts on this trip. Thankfully, I've had all the correct sizes. That was something I checked for this year's trip to make sure I had enough of the right sizes and thread types. So I'll stock up when I hit the big city again on new bolts. That was only another couple, 2 or 3 hours to repair that. 12 o'clock now, I'll stop and have some lunch and then back into Sturt and keep on exploring. So that's good. I don't have to abandon my trip. I get to finish third. G'day. I hope you've enjoyed this film. If you'd like to assist in the creation of more videos without being committed to a monthly Patreon subscription or spending any additional money, click on this link, How You Can Help, for several ways you can contribute to my productions. Thanks.